I'm gonna share with you guys a little bit about what you can get under $2 million in a flat neighborhood in San Carlos, walking distance to downtown. This is a 2-bedroom house, 5,000 square foot lot, which I'm super pumped about. Can't wait to show you the yard and what's going on in the back. We have a detached studio. There's a lot of good things going on here, and stick around to the very end. I'm gonna share with you what else your dollar can get you in San Mateo County under $2 million on the peninsula. So let's go and take a look. All right, so what I love about this house, it's super cute and tiny. It's not a tiny house, but it's a home that's a little bit smaller compared to like what else you might see on the peninsula. But I'm really excited to kind of show you this because in this video, I'm trying to give you an idea. Okay, here's an example of what you can get for like under $2 million. Originally, when my clients bought the home 3 years ago, there were a couple little walls here and they ended up taking all this out and just creating a lot more open space. So the square footage of the house is actually just over 1,000 square feet, but the garage is finished. I can't wait to show you the backyard. That's pretty cool too. But I like over here some of the open space that's here. Obviously this is staged, so you might choose to do like an L-shaped sofa, put a TV up here. Obviously for staging, we usually don't do TVs, but we just have a mirror. Or you could choose to put like some furniture over here with like a built-in and a TV on that. So it kind of depends on what your style is and if you do like watching TV. This is kind of cool. You might be familiar with these. These are called heat pumps, also known as mini splits, also known as like high wall units. They've been very popular for decades in Asia, and they've just kind of started becoming more popular here. We actually have a couple heat pumps at our house, and these provide both heat and air conditioning. And then there's like a little unit on the outside, and this allows you to get really precise temperature control in whatever room you have it in. And so in the rest of the house, there's actually, for the 2 bedrooms up, those each have heat pumps too. And then in the back, there's another heat pump. So there's a total of 4, which is, I don't know if you could say excessive in a positive sense, but I think that's pretty nice. So let's pop over here. And this is not a massive kitchen, but I think some of the things it has going for it are it's clean, it's functional, it's totally move-inable at like a higher price point house, or like a, you know, someone had like a $75,000 or $100,000 kitchen, which this is not. But if someone did, you would see a refrigerator here that's more like counter depth. So right here, the counter depth is typically 24 inches. So you would see the fridge would be built in, and the fridge itself would be a lot shallower, and then it would kind of come up another foot or 2 above this, and then the cooling unit and compressor would be on the top. Obviously, many of you have heard of like the Sub-Zero brand. There's Thermador. There's a lot of different like fancier fridges. I will say at a couple homes that we own, we have a KitchenAid fridge in one, and then at our house we have a Sub-Zero, and it's 5 times the cost. The cucumbers that we have, they don't last any bit longer. They don't last 5 times as long, but they do look cool, and they're really important from a resale perspective. So this is obviously a very basic, nice fridge. If you're to remodel the kitchen at some point, this home actually comes with approved plans where someone could expand this from the 1,000 square feet it is now up to about 1,900 square feet. So that would involve like blowing out this whole area, pushing it all back. So the refresh that was done in here, it was not like that expensive. So if you end up ripping this out, which never feels good from an environmental perspective, but if you ended up doing that, it's not like you just threw away a bunch of money that was just spent, because this is like, you know, very basic and clean. You have a couple shelves here, and then you have, I thought this was really clever, how the owners put the stove and the range over here. Obviously, if you're standing here, like you're just kind of focused, but on other homes, you might see like it looking into the backyard. Sometimes you'll see them on an island. I'm personally not a big fan of seeing a range, or excuse me, seeing a stove in the island. For those properties, you'll usually see the stove here, and then there'll be a hood up there, or there'll be like a little fan vent behind. It goes zzz, and then it'll like suck out the air, but those don't work too well, and I'm just not like a huge fan of those for obvious reasons. So this is basic. You have a fan here, it exhausts. Maybe you could put a cover over that if you wanted, but again, totally not a big deal. And this reminds me a lot of like my first place. And even when I lived in San Francisco before we moved down to the peninsula, I just was grateful to have something that was clean and functional and gave me the space that I needed. And so if that's you and you're just looking for something that is a reasonable square footage with a yard, because it's only like a few $100,000 more than like a 2-bedroom luxury condo is gonna be about $1.2 million to $1.4 million. And here at like $1.7 million, you get like this whole yard, which I can't wait to show you in a sec. But let's go on upstairs, and I wanna show you kind of the 2 bedrooms that we have. All right, right now we're shooting this. We're a little bit of a heat wave, so it's like 95 out. And I just love how there's heat pumps or mini splits in both these rooms. So it's like totally cool. I mean, what do you think?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Let me show you the bathroom real quick here. And what I like about this, again, it's not huge, but it's totally fine. You have a lot of good natural light here. You have this, we kind of call this subway tile. You can get this at Home Depot for like several dollars a square foot. It's very inexpensive. I'm not sure exactly what this cost here, but it's very simple, basic, and clean. I like it. You have the shower over tub. Obviously, there's no screen here or curtain, but that could be easy to put one in. We're just from a staging perspective, we like to feel a lot more open. And then you have this towel rack, and then you have a fan for ventilation up there. So again, super simple. Okay, let's pop in. I'll show you a couple of the bedrooms just to give it a sense for spacing. So come on in here. And this room overlooks the backyard, which we're gonna get to in a couple. You have another mini split up here. And then we have this stage. I think this is like a queen bed, but you could easily put a king. And then we also chose to kind of keep the closet open with the cedar over here. This is very simple, but obviously you can put some doors and sliders on there if you wanted. We have some nice new carpeting. We have high ceilings, a little bit of an angle. So that's kind of the style of the house where it's a little bit pitched up here. Same with on the main level down there. Let me show you the other bedroom. I like this. So you would kind of call this floor plan like a split level because we're kind of two different levels, right? You have that main level down there and then you have the second level up here. So it's kind of split as opposed to being like traditional two-story house where you go up some stairs and there's a bunch of bedrooms and the second story is kind of stacked on top of the first story. That's kind of not the case here because we're right above the garage, which is gonna be pretty cool. I can't wait to show you that. But in here, again, we have another high wall unit. We have a couple twin beds. This could also be used as an office. So if it's just you and or a significant other and no kids, I think this is like pretty cool for work from home. But I do have something cool in the back that I'm gonna show you, which is also ideal for work from home. This could be a closet here. You could put a door, but they actually use this as another little like office nook space, or it could be a kid's play area, stashing whatever you want. So for this square footage, I would say this is pretty efficient. Now you might've seen a video that I did a little while ago on a condo for $500,000 in Redwood City. And square footage here is like not that far off, but you can see compared to that one, here you have so much natural light coming in. You don't have, shared walls with anybody. So I just feel obviously this is, more than 3 times the price, but you can see from a square footage perspective, kind of that big difference that makes. Okay, so let's go on down. And while we're going down, I just want to mention a couple things. So the roof on a house like this, they're usually like flat roofs and not a big deal. There's different types of roofs you can get. Some are going to be like composite and shingle, which is more like a pitch roof. And you can kind of see they're usually gray in color. Sometimes you have flat roofs, which are tar and gravel. Sometimes you'll have like concrete tile roofs. You could have metal roofs. I'll show you in the back. We have a metal roof on the cabana. We'll go out there in a sec. All right, so this yard here is fantastic. So this lot size is about 5,000, but I just want you to have a sense for a home of this square footage, a little over 1,000, how big the yard can be. I mean, first of all, the clients spent, I think it was like $70,000 or $80,000 in the back here, just kind of opening things up. And they kind of did quite a bit. It was really fun for their son to have this area in the back to play with, also for their dog. They got this really cool cabana actually from Costco of all places. It was about $3,000 and that's a metal roof on there. Obviously, if you're doing metal roof on a house, maybe a little bit different quality, but I think this was pretty good value for what it is. And you can see today in the 90s, being in the shade, I think it's nice. When you are on turf, one thing worth noting about turf, it's typically can feel 5 to 10 degrees hotter on turf than if you are just standing on regular grass. So that's a negative for turf. However, it's outweighed because you can use this like year round. And in a month, we're gonna have rain and clouds for several months. And so then you're gonna say, well, geez, I kind of wish I had the turf. So it doesn't get into the 90s like that often in San Mateo County, especially like in the northern parts. But anyways, I think that is nice. And then over here, we have a fire pit, table area. We have like some really nice pavers. Just to give you an idea for hardscaping, I remember like when we put hardscaping at our house, just the driveway was about 10 grand and that was like 4 years ago. So here, this is not inexpensive to do this because you don't just throw it down. You actually have to grade the whole backyard. Then you have to put a layer of base rock down. And then on top of the base rock, then you also have like a layer of typically sand in there. And then you'll put the pavers down. And it's really important because I've seen a lot of pavers over the years where you'll see like after 5 years, then they'll kind of be tilted a little bit or there'll be depressions in there. So if you're doing this, you want to really make sure that they compress everything pretty well underneath. Otherwise, you're going to get some unevenness. This is pretty new, but on some older ones, I've seen some bad stuff. All right, let's pop back in here and I want to show you this super cool detached studio. This is about 120 square feet. It's from a company, I believe it's from Studio Shed. There's a number of different companies out there that sell prefab structures like this, but this is really nice for work from home. You do have another high wall unit in here. We have this set to 66 degrees. This is just cool. Like if you're sitting here on your Zoom call, MacBook, like whatever, like if this is me, I'd be putting my iMac here with a really pretty view of the cabana. It's actually really nice. Like you have a 2-story house over there, but I can only see the roof line. And then over here, I can see, and no windows. So that's something you kind of want to keep in mind wherever you buy. Like personally, I think homes that we're not looking into someone else's window, because people complain all the time that it can feel a little squished, like in these neighborhoods with 5,000 and 6,000 foot lots, which I don't disagree with. But if you don't have some massive 2-story home right next to you, like that's a good way to go. So anyways, just want to show you this. And what's kind of nice is they match the floor in here to the floor in the house. So let's pop back on out and we'll just kind of give you like a little bit different view from here. The other thing I just want to point out, which is kind of cool if you're into like green and environmental stuff like I am, you can see over there, it might be hard to see, there's some blue water barrels there. That is actually for rainwater that kind of will go and drain in there from the roof and the gutters. And then it's used to irrigate all the landscaping. Obviously that's just certain times and we haven't had any rain for a while, but it is nice. You can kind of see there's a lot of podocarpus here on the outside and again over here. And those, like we actually have them in my yard and those will get up to, we just had them trimmed this morning and they can get up to like 15 feet high. And so I would say for what you're looking at over here, just to give you some context, might be hard to kind of see, but this will get you in about 4 years, ours have grown to about 15 feet high, which is pretty good. So like this, I know these are small. Ours were like a little bit bigger when we first got them, but anyways, this will give you like a really nice green screen. So if you're watching this, whether you're interested in this house or any other house, my view is like, I'm a huge fan of these green screens because if you did have a 2-story home here and it's someday, maybe there will be a 2-story home here or there. Right now, this neighborhood where we are now in San Carlos, this is mostly 1-level homes. Typically gonna see bigger homes west of El Camino and like more expensive established neighborhoods. But I think the green screen is really nice. So that would go all the way here and you could plant like, when we got at our house, we started out with 48-inch ones. They were a little pricier compared to these. So you can kind of buy your way out of it by getting bigger ones in the beginning. So that way you'll get the growth a lot faster. But I just think the green screen, not only is it relaxing to look at, but it can add a ton of value on the back end if and when you do that. If I could wave my magic wand, it'd be every home that my buyers take a look at to see that there'd be like a green screen on all 3 sides in the backyard. It's just not as common, but just something for you to consider. And then over here, you can see we have more podocarpus in the back. And then I like kind of behind me, we have these planter beds. They're very simple, but you can see there's drip irrigation here. It's just a little too hot to be planting stuff. But personally, like I'm huge into tomatoes. I love them a lot. So I'd be planting massive amounts of tomatoes here in my family. They're not big into them. So I'd be eating them all myself. I'd be eating like 20, 30, 40 cherry tomatoes like at a time, but maybe that's my own issue. Okay, but I would plant this out and I think that'd be really nice. You can see you get some pretty good exposure. Obviously you have a massive yard, but you have some lemon trees. There's actually 6 or 7 different types of fruit trees in the backyard here. And then over here, obviously we kind of talked about the cabana earlier. I just think this is pretty nice. If you want to keep something like this or add this to your own house, if you already own, I'd probably consider putting like a TV out here. You could build an outdoor kitchen. There's so much that you can do and you can do all these things like with permits and do it all in the books. And there's just a lot of different cool ways that I think you can like maximize the space. I will mention, because this home has an attached garage, my view, that's like a huge strength. It's kind of a no-brainer. I haven't really worked with anyone who's like, oh, I really want a detached garage. It's just you go spend $5 million and you get a detached garage. But I think the benefit of the attached garage is allows you to have a structure like this in the back, which is super awesome. Or, I mean, this is small, only 120 square feet. Like we have an ADU at our house. It's about 275 square feet, but you can do, I've seen some that are like 400 to 500 square feet. I just did a transaction off market in Burlingame where there was an 1,100 square foot ADU. And you can really do that if you have this extra space in the back. And that's why I'm a huge fan of the attached garage. All right, so let me show you the garage. This is cool, especially for a house of this size. I think it's really nice that you have all this space down here. This is I'm always hesitant to say legit 2-car garage, so but it's basically, you could probably fit 2 cars in here side by side if you wanted to. The owners chose to put the same flooring down in here that was in the house. I think it came out really nice. There's recessed lighting. Ceiling height is a little bit lower than like typical. You can kind of, see me touching the ceiling here, but for a garage at this price point, like high $1 million range, like I think it's fantastic. You're just not gonna see too many homes at this price range with usually not only like a 1-car, but like a 2-car that is attached. So we have washer dryer over here. There's actually a bathroom. This was probably here like 50 years ago is our guess. So, the current owners just kind of refreshed it a little bit, but again, very basic, nothing fancy. But if you wanted to, do a home gym in here, store bikes, whatever you want to do, like you have all that space. We also have a sub panel here. Most of you watching this are probably pretty familiar, you have usually the electrical main outside the house. And then here we have a sub panel, and I just want to nerd out here and comment. I really like so many homes I sell, nothing's labeled, which is a little bit frustrating. So it is nice. If you're thinking about buying a house, my recommendation is to try to understand what are all these circuits here. So that way, if one of them blows, at least you know like what it controls. So anyways, you'll probably see if you've been watching a few of my videos that I like to nerd out and talk about some things that maybe in other parts of the country are not a big deal at all. But here I kind of get excited about it. All right, so I did promise that I would share with you a little bit about what else you can get in San Mateo County for under $2 million. But for the purpose of this conversation, let's limit it to the peninsula. Obviously, the county is going to include all the coastal areas. Out there, you're going to get 20 to 30% better value, lower price per square foot, but you are going to be farther away from everything. So if you work on the peninsula or in the valley or in the city, obviously living in the coastal areas is going to add a little bit to your commute. But there's Pacifica, there's Half Moon Bay, there's all those good communities out there too, which are great places to live. But if you're kind of thinking on the peninsula, under $2 million, your first decision point is going to be, do I want to be in a flatter area or do I want to be in a hillier area? Now, just by nature of price point, most of this is going to be in a flatter neighborhood because most of the stuff up in the hills, those are usually just bigger houses. And the bigger houses that have views, some don't have views, those are usually just going to be bigger houses in general. And those are going to be starting probably in the low twos. And if you see something sub two, probably needs a massive amount of work, or it's on the side of a hill in Belmont and it just the yard drops off the back, and I'm less a fan of those unless that's something that you really want. So anyways, I'd say you're looking kind of like where we are now, San Carlos. You could get a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. That's going to be like high ones. If you were to look in San Mateo, for example, you could be in the Shoreview neighborhood, Parkside neighborhood, east of 101 there. I have a listing right now on Van Buren, which was asking $1.6 million. That was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, walking distance to the Bay Trail. So you can get really good value east of 101 in San Mateo. There's also San Mateo Village, which is just kind of south of the Whole Foods, west of 101, east of El Camino, and just south of Hillsdale Boulevard. So that area is all ranch style homes. That's going to kind of be like 1.6 to about 2.2. And then there's also the Sunnybrae neighborhood in San Mateo, which is also west of 101, north of 92, east of El Camino, and just kind of like south of downtown. And that's pretty much going to be mostly it in San Mateo. There's also Beresford Park, which is fabulous area, San Mateo Terrace, walking distance to Hillsdale Shopping Center, Beresford Park itself. It's such a beautiful spot. There's even a cool garden there that you can sign up and be on a waiting list to get your own plot of land and you can garden. So there's a lot going on in San Mateo. We have 27 neighborhoods, so you're going to see a wide variety of price points, but you're going to see some good options there. In Redwood City, you can easily find a 2-bedroom home under $2 million. You can also find a 3-bedroom home under $2 million. It's going to depend where. Some of like the letter streets like A, B, C, those streets, those are going to have homes kind of in that price range. And if we go a little bit more north to Burlingame, it's going to be pretty hard to get something under $2 million, but I was just looking yesterday and there's been about 25 sales over the last year under about $2.2 million. So it is possible to get something in Burlingame, but when you compare Burlingame to San Carlos and Belmont, where you're going to get like really top ranked schools in all these areas that are at the top of a lot of people's list, you're just going to be getting a lot less house. So if you value that real estate of Burlingame and you value that really close-knit community and the small town feel, Burlingame's going to be a great option. However, it's very, very expensive. You can get the same house in Burlingame in another town for like 10 to 30% less. So check out my other videos on Burlingame if you're curious to kind of learn more about those. And then also at the top of a lot of people's list, under $2 million is going to be Daly City, South San Francisco. 3-bedroom home is going to kind of be like in the mid ones. Could you go up to 2? Yes, but there's just not a lot of product once you start getting up to 2. So you are going to get a little bit different weather than you will get on the peninsula, like a little bit more south. You're going to get more fog probably. It's going to be a little chillier. It's reflected in the purchase price as well. And if you work in the city or you work in biotech in South San Francisco, obviously those options are going to be at top of a lot of people's lists, or even YouTube in San Bruno or Walmart. There's a lot of really good corporate campuses that are within 5 to 15-minute drive if you kind of live in any of those towns. Lastly, we have Millbrae. Millbrae is pretty pricey, just kind of like Burlingame. So in Millbrae, you could see some 2-bedroom homes under $2 million, but it's going to be kind of hard to get a 3-bedroom. For Burlingame and Millbrae, a 3-bedroom home is going to really be starting like in the low 2s and kind of go up to like the mid 2s. And in Burlingame, a 3-bedroom could go as high as $3 million. But anyways, we'll do other videos on that, but hopefully that just kind of gives you an idea. If you found this information helpful or valuable for you, please hit that like button. If you'd like to receive more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. And if you think that you might be considering making a move within San Mateo County or to San Mateo County, I'd love to be your Peninsula real estate resource of choice. So shoot me a text, drop me an email, or give me a phone call, and I look forward to being in touch.